How's it going, guys? It's Billy here, and I'm back with another video, and this one is a follow-up. It is a benchmarking video for our SSD inside of our PlayStation 4 Slim. So essentially what this video is going to be talking about is the performance difference compared to the original traditional SSD that came pre-installed with the PlayStation 4 Slim versus the SSD that we purchased and installed. So if you're interested in installing your very own SSD, or you even just want to upgrade to a bigger hard drive, maybe a 1 terabyte or maybe a 2 terabyte 2.5-inch drive, be sure to check out the card over here, and I'll also be leaving a link in the description below so you guys can watch that video on how to install it for yourself. In all honesty, it's really simple. It's really easy. The hardest part is probably just reinitializing it, and you guys watch the video. It's pretty easy though. Just follow the instructions, you'll be good to go. So right off the bat, let's talk about performance differences when we're talking about booting the actual PlayStation 4 Slim up. So basically I timed all of it, and here's my comparison between the two. When booting up the PlayStation 4 Slim, that took approximately 21 seconds every time on the traditional hard drive, but on the SSD, boot time went down to 16 seconds instead. So you're saving around 5 seconds every time you boot up your PlayStation 4 Slim. Next up, I decided to install Grand Theft Auto 5. Well, you're kind of forced to install it when you put in the game for the very first time, and I wanted to see if going from installing from the actual disk itself to the SSD was going to be any quicker, and this probably shocked me the most. There was marginally no difference, meaning that within the margin of error that could have happened, because in the traditional hard drive, it took 37 minutes and 10 seconds. With the SSD, it took 37 minutes and 6 seconds. They're really close by. You couldn't even really tell the difference between the two if you didn't time it. So in all honesty, this is what surprised me the most. There was no difference installing from the disk to the hard drive itself. So what does that mean? That means that there's a bottleneck between actually reading from the disk, taking that information, and then writing it to the drive itself. Meaning that can only go so fast that it reads information from the disk that it writes to the drive instead, that there's no difference if it's a traditional hard drive or if it's an SSD instead. So when installing a game from the disk to the actual SSD, you're going to see no difference whatsoever, and in all honesty, that surprised me the most. Now, unfortunately, I didn't test an actual game installing it from, like, let's say you download it from the PlayStation Store and then you install it directly from there. I didn't do that, but since this is an SSD and you're going to see with the future results, I think, and this is a educated guess, that it's going to be a lot faster than with the traditional hard drive in it. The SSD is going to be much faster. So let's get to the rest of the results now. Now, when it came down to actually loading the story for the very first time, with the traditional hard drive, that took 1 minute and 14 seconds. Then when we hopped over to the SSD, that only took 38 seconds. But probably where I noticed the biggest difference is when actually pressing X on the controller to go from the start screen when you have the disk installed to actually getting to the main menu where you can either choose single player or you can choose multiplayer. Now with the original hard drive, that took over 1 minute and 40 seconds. With the SSD, that took an astonishing 36 seconds. So all in all, what kind of conclusions can we draw from here? Yes, if you install an SSD into your PlayStation 4 Slim, things that require the actual hard drive usage will be much quicker. It appears to be anywhere between 20 to 30% quicker on average, according to at least my results that I have over here. But what does that mean for you? Is it actually worthwhile to do it? What we use over here was a Crucial MX300, and that was 525 gigabytes. So that actually gave us a little bit more storage than what it originally came with the 500 gigabytes because of the whole conversion from bits to bytes. You don't actually get, the whole amount, plus a portion of it is also used for the operating system. So ultimately, is it really worth it to upgrade your system to using an SSD, especially for the cost? In my opinion, if you just want the pure performance and you can pick up for one of these for maybe like $120, spending more than that doesn't really seem worthwhile, at least to me. Then at that point, you might as well be getting a gaming PC, I think, instead of a PlayStation at that point, because if you're going to be spending upwards of $200, $300, $400, depending on, how big you want your SSD to be, let's say those 1 terabytes, they can run you up to $400 depending on the brand. Is that really worth it in the end to have a 1 terabyte SSD? I don't think so, especially at that price point. Sometimes you'll be spending as much as the PlayStation 4 itself, on an SSD than the actual console, and I don't think that's worthwhile. For $100 and you're getting around the same size space, I think that's worthwhile, at least from a performance standpoint. But in all honesty, that's really up to you guys. Maybe you guys will actually value the bigger size more, so you can look at one of those 1 or 2 terabyte hard drives, and they're not expensive at all, and that would give you the much needed boost in terms of storage. But this video was all about performance, and the SSD does indeed increase performance. So there you have it, folks. That is our little benchmarking that we did for the PlayStation 4 Slim with a SSD inside of it. And if you guys want to see any of the items that we used in today's video, be sure to check out the description below because I'll be leaving a link to all of those. But you know what? I want to get your guys' take on this. If you have a PlayStation 4, would you ever consider putting an SSD in it for a performance increase? I want to know what you guys think. Be sure to leave a comment section below whether you would or you wouldn't and why. Either way though, guys, thank you very much for watching today's video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.